You gonna bring him? You gonna bring Brandon up off backstage, or are we gonna start it with him on there?
I can take him out and bring him back up.
I don't know. Either way, fine with me. What you want to do?
Yeah, I'll bring him down, then bring him back up.
Okay, cool. That gives us a chance to give you a little intro. We'll bring you right back in, Brandon.
And we live.
Welcome back to another episode number 13 of the New Jack Archives. The usual suspects. Got Mr. C. Will from We Do This Too Outdoors. Got my man Craig. Dreaded Archer himself in the building. And today we're gonna have a special guest on the program for y'all. So vibe out with it, get in the chat, share that live, get in there, and comment in the chat if you're with us. Appreciate y'all joining. It's gonna be a little bit different today. How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling, fellas?
Can't complain, man. Can't complain. Living life.
What you got going on?
Living life like it's the last day of school.
Link. I wish they would just let you share the live to your story. That would make it so much easier.
It's still trying to figure that out.
He said what now?
Instagram's still trying to figure that out. Like they still haven't got it all set up on the StreamYard side where the chat shows up on the screen.
Yeah, I be having such a hard time with hearing. It's almost like I'm getting a delay. Like I don't realize you talking sometimes until I'm already talking.
I can hear you. I can hear Trey just fine.
Right, live show problems. It's all good.
Always.
I'll just be a little more careful with it today. But welcome everybody to another episode of the New Jack Archers. Like I said, we got the main suspects in here today. We got a special guest with us. This guy is somebody has the greatest time management skills I've ever seen. I don't know how he has time to do everything that he does. He is a PhD med student, ambassadors for Hunters of Color, New York BHA, and the list goes on and on and on. We have the one and only Mr. Brandon Dale himself with us today. We'd like to welcome Brandon Dale to the show. How you doing, B?
Good, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on, guys. And looking forward to chatting.
No doubt, man. So for those that don't know, just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started to start it off.
Yeah, man. So like I said, I'm Brandon Dale. I think so. So I live in New York City and I've been here for almost 8 years, 8 years now, which is kind of wild when I think about it because I'm born and raised like Mississippi boy. It's funny because Courtney, my uncle, and you had a podcast together. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is hilarious because we do turkey camp together every year. And I remember when I was first telling my uncle, like, you got to make your profile public. You got to start talking to people. You got to build community. You got all these stories because I got all these pictures and memories of him as a game warden. And, he was the one who taught me how to shoot archery, won my first bow. And, him and my other uncles were taking me out hunting. And so, I remember telling him, come on, man, it's a great opportunity to share the story. And I feel like, as more and more I think about that, especially in the context of now living in New York City, where I didn't think anyone would hunt when I first came here. I think that's a big part of I think how I like to sort of think about my role as a hunter and an angler. Right. And so from Louisiana and was born in Jackson, Mississippi, though. And then had family in northern Mississippi and sort of my mom's side of the family is from South Louisiana. And on both sides, really just loved the outdoors. My grandpa was a farmer on both sides, cattle and pigs and sort of vegetables. And then like I said, my uncle's a game warden. My other uncle was a semi-pro bass fisherman. And so I'd ride co-angler with him and learn how to bass fish with him. And then my dad was a big bass fisherman. And I think it was just kind of through and through, every moment of like my young, like even childhood that I couldn't even think of. Like I see pictures of me in a bass boat, like with my mom, and my mom's holding me, and I got the Mickey Mouse rod, and then like the little Red Ryder BB gun, the whole deal. And it's like I remember my mom got my first gun, like my first real gun was a crack barrel 410, and I mean, dude, I'm telling you, if I could have drawn elk tags, I would have been out in Idaho with that thing because I was like, if it had season, I was on it. Like, it's so funny though because I did 4-H shooting sports as well, and I remember my mom would like sign me up, and it'd be like me, like 13-year-old little black boy going to like it's like pretty fancy little like trap shoots or whatever. Everyone's got their like their like Rites, their like sort of Berettas, all the things, and I've got a single barrel crack shot 410. Looked like a mod fix joke, and I was like in there, pull, boom, and I remember I would like win, which is pretty sick. But it was because like I'd go to my grandma's house and have my brother, who's like a big baseball guy, just like throw clays, and we just shoot clays like every day. But I think that like stories like that, I think for me are something that like I think very fondly of like my like childhood, and they seem very normal. And and then I sort of am contextualized all the time now with folks who had never had any experience hunting, didn't grow up like knowing anyone who like really even fished, much less like used guns or archery, or really had any idea like all the things that are available to people to like connect with the outdoors. And so I think, oh yeah.
Yeah. So speaking of archery real quick, like how did your uncles and everybody, how did you get into the archery side of it specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, I mean, actually was my uncle. So like both of my uncles, like I say both of my uncles, I've 3 uncles, and then like all my grandparents, and even some of my grandmothers as well, like are big hunters. But my aunt was actually a big archer too, like just from a competitive side. So like she would just go and shoot bow and arrows, like it's sort of just like a regular like league basically. And my first bow though, I actually got from it's kind of a wild story, but my Uncle Anthony, won like a competition at this like at a pro shop basically down the road at Mossy Oak in West Point, Mississippi, because that's like where like my grandpa and like all my grandparents and every family's from, like up in West Point. And he put a bet basically on that, like he was betting one of his buddies who runs that pro shop to like basically buy me my first compound bow. And he wound up winning, got my compound bow, and I mean I was like hooked because before then I had like some recurve bows, stuff like that, and like I was like 12 and like 11, like 10 through 12 was like shooting recurves. And I was big in the like Boy Scouts as well. I'm an Eagle Scout, and so I think I also just like had archery exposure there. But it wasn't really until I got my first compound bow that I started really hunting with it. And so got that bow, got kind of sucked in, and yeah, I mean honestly, like I wanted nothing more in my life than to like shoot my first deer with my bow, and like came very close. Like whenever I was a teenager, and like at some point in time, I was like, this is ever gonna happen? And then of course, like it happens at a place where you just don't even expect it. I'm like set up on a bad wind. I'm like on public land. I'm like not expecting to see anything because I've like carried in this huge stick, like rusty aluminum climber, because this was way before like the saddle craze. And I'm like, and I come up and I'm like, oh, and it's like they have a bunch of palmettos and like in South Louisiana where I like grew up hunting. And you're basically just hunting like either like funnels that are created in palmettos with like, food to bed corridors. And like at the time, like I wasn't thinking about wind that much. Like I was used to like hunting with like guns and stuff, right? And so it was like, oh no, I need to be like 10 to 15 yards from this trail. And I had a bad wind, and like definitely got winded by deer. But thankfully I had like a doe that basically just like I guess disregarded it because she wanted to get to this food plot that was on the other side of this, like basically on the border of public and private. And I was like, I will never ever be so thankful. Dude, I was so thankful. It really just like sealed the deal for me. And then after that, I actually started shooting with a stick bow, like an idiot. And no, I say that I'm being facetious. I like, I really got into trad archery after that. And like, then kind of came back when I came to New York. So like once I moved here 8 years ago after that, I like just didn't have time to shoot my trad bow. So it's like I did some trad bow hunting, which is good, and I enjoyed it. But that was when I could shoot every day, like back in Louisiana when I was in high school, and then went to college, came up to school here in Rhode Island, and then went to school in New York. Then I like picked my compound bow up, got a new one, and honestly, like bow season is like not the biggest highlight of my year, but I think one of the biggest, especially like we have an awesome rut here, and I think the biggest piece that I love about bow hunting is that it extends your season and your reason to be in the woods for so long. And I think that's like bow hunters have to know the woods, and I feel like that's one of the things that I really appreciate, because like whenever I'm out scouting and I'm thinking about a setup, I'm thinking about where animals are using and how animals are using terrain and how hunters are using the terrain. Like especially hunting only public up here, like bow hunting, I feel like particularly just gives me a lens that like allows me to sort of think about like where do I need to put myself to be like, I mean, basically invisible, like not just in like a physical sense, but like in a sense, and like a win sense, and like a sense of like being able to like make my shot, make my movements without having like anything like get knocked. And it's just like all those sorts of things that come together in such a way that it's just like distinct from any other type of like big game hunting. And so like, yeah, I mean, our archery season opens up September 1 here and goes till January 31st. And it's like, I know, like within an hour of New York City, I can hunt on like 2,300 acres of public land. And it's like, there are people who hunt it. And so it is definitely pressured in some areas, but it's been incredible. Like, I feel like I've had some of the best bow hunting actually in my life, like this past season in Long Island. It was like an absolutely just incredible rut with like multiple, like I hit the rut perfectly in multiple hunts over the course of a week. And I was like, this is just insane. Yeah. And so like, I don't know, man, bow hunting during the rut is just like, that just, I mean, yeah, my uncle and I are putting in tags every year for Iowa. And like just basically putting in preference points until we can finally cash in on them at some point. But I feel like
that's me with Kansas.
yeah, exactly. You're playing the game. But yeah, man. So I do it all. It's like I'm a big duck hunter. Like I think I'm a big duck hunter, turkey hunter. And like I think if I could do two things, it'd probably be like birds, like turkeys and ducks. And then I'm a big fly fisherman. But honestly, I tell people all the time like fly fishing is also bow hunting, and that's why I love it, because it really is an extension of hunting that you can also do catch and release for, I guess. But it's like I'm telling you, man, fly fishing, sight fishing fish, it's like such a similar game as like bow hunting, especially like big game species like in saltwater and stuff like that, but even carp. And so like, yeah, I don't know. I just grew up fishing and hunting and really just loving the land. And I feel like that was one of the things that I didn't expect to be able to do such regularity here in New York City, but it's been a priority for me. And like even throughout it all, I think it's really kept me grounded.
So that's exactly what I was going to ask you about. So, being from the South, born in Mississippi, growing up in Louisiana, did you end up in New York just because of the school situation, or how did New York City come into the picture?
Yeah, no, honestly, man, it really was like pretty much just school. But I'll tell you, because like basically when I was applying like for med school and grad school, and even for college, like I didn't apply to any college that didn't have within walking distance, not water, but fishable water. And at the time, I wasn't quite sure, because I was like, you're a freshman in college, you're like about to go across the country. You don't want to be like, oh, well, where am I going to keep my bow? Like, can I keep my bow in my dorm? Like, I was like, I didn't like have enough insight at that point to figure that out. But I knew I needed fishable water, walkable, and like public land somewhere nearby that I could like walk to because I didn't have a car. And so flashing forward now, like that same thing applied whenever I was looking at New York. I was like, well, I got to have some nature access. So like before I even considered it, I started looking like, is there public land around here? And I was like, oh, wow, there she is, like watershed land that you can hunt on like 45 minutes north of the city. And then I was like, wait, I can fish in Central Park? Oh, yeah, okay, this is sounding more doable. But really, it was school. It was really just that. And then after that, once I got here, I kind of decided like, I didn't tell like many of my roommates or really any of like my people when I first moved here, aside from like some of my best friends who I had like one when I first moved here just by happenstance, that like knew I hunted. And like, so when I'm in my apartment, I like got a deep freezer. That was the first thing that I was like, I had to battle my landlord to be like, I need to put a deep freezer in my closet. And my landlord was like, what? I was like, don't worry about it. Yeah. And then my roommate was like, what's this giant like box that just got delivered? I was like, oh, that's my like 3D foam target that I'm going to put in my closet so I can keep my draw cycle right. Don't worry about it. And I'm like, all these things just build, and all of a sudden then you're like, all right, it doesn't really matter actually. And I was like, I don't really care who knows I hunt or fish. And then now I'm like, I can't go anywhere with anyone talking to me not about hunting or fishing, whether I'm in the hospital or even like at a party somewhere. And I feel like it's one of the cool things is that so many people want to have access to it and want to talk to people who do it. And like I myself, like before I moved here, was very ignorant, I think, about like how many people really want to like know that life and do these things that just didn't have or know someone who did it. So it's been really cool to be like that kind of like ambassador for like hunting and fishing to folks, and also like I do a lot of mentorship to like get programs and people out into the outdoors too. So that's been really, really rewarding.
That's good. So hunters of color, man, how did you get introduced with them and become an ambassador?
Yeah, man. So I guess this is about like it's 5 years ago. That's like actually crazy. But yeah, so it's 5 years ago. So HSC really started, I think, kind of around then. And they did their first program actually, like where they like brought like new hunters to sort of bring people together to mentor them like one-on-one. That was actually here in New York State. And so essentially I got hit up by someone who had followed on Instagram who was like, hey, like at this point I was when I first moved to New York, I was still on my stick bow thing. And so I was like hunting with a stick bow and like also like, you know, I was like very active on Instagram and stuff. And so like one of my friends who was in backcountry hunters and anglers had messaged me. And at that point I didn't even know really BHA either. Because I was pretty much like a solo hunter before I moved here to New York. I would like pretty much DIY solo hunt all the time. And like basically unless I was like with my family, like back home in like Louisiana or Mississippi or Texas. And so like I was just doing my thing, like hunting on public land up here. And one of my friends messaged me, he's like, hey, like we're doing this program and we need mentors. And I was like, wait, this sounds awesome. I've never heard of this. This sounds epic. And so like she asked me to be a mentor basically for the Hunter's Color program. And I show up and everyone's like, I'm like getting all my gear on, get my saddle and stuff like that. Cause it's like you could either show up like that night or that morning and sort of get placed in the stand or place where you're hunting and stuff. And so I showed up that night, but I was hunting actually. Cause I drove up the day before and hunted some public land nearby. And so I had my saddle and I was like taking it off outside. And like one of my now very close friends, but who's a mentor, he comes up to me and he's like, we're so excited to have you, like first time hunting. And I'm like in full camo, I got my saddle and everything. He's like, we're so excited to have you. And he's thinking like, oh, I bought all this stuff and I've never been using it. And I was like, he's like, oh, like, are you excited to hunt for the first time? And I was like, I've been hunting for 25 years. Like, but that's the thing is that I was the only mentor of color, right? So like, of course, it makes sense. Everyone's like, oh, like a non-white guy. Yeah. Like, of course, it's going to be probably a mentee. But I don't know, man. I just loved it. And yeah, I really loved my mentee. She was amazing. Her name's Liana. And yeah, she was just a great, great person. She's like an actress, like on Broadway and does stage and lighting sounding, but then had been interested in getting into basically sustainability and like really then found out like food and hunting is like a really great way to not only be like connect to the land, but also she was like really big into like trying to figure out how to like source local ingredients and also connect with like nature in that way. Cause she like hiked and stuff before, but she was like, didn't really like fit that niche. And so, yeah, that was like our first hunt and it was awesome. And we just like absolutely had a great time. And I really loved it, loved the community and like really loved being able to see people who had no exposure to hunting and like in less than, 24, 48 hours, we're now like talking about getting hunting trips going, like being in communities around, like telling their friends, bringing deer back to their friends at homes in Brooklyn. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is so awesome. So then, yeah, I kind of just basically decided and reached out to Jimmy and Lydia and was like, hey, like, if you guys are looking for an ambassador in New York, I would be happy to do it. And so I've been sort of running the ambassador program here in New York and the community for the past 4 years, which has been great.
That's what's up. Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I feel like one of the things that I didn't anticipate as like a primarily solo hunter, but until really I moved to New York, is like the rewards you get from seeing other people like put that thing together. It's just like, yeah, it's just next level. Like,
yeah. So when you take like the new hunters and you start, when you said you become an ambassador for the state, you reach out to somebody, like, so kind of like walk us through like what that looks like, what happens there. Like, do you go straight from the hunting camps? Do you teach them how to process? Like, can you tell us a little bit about like how it goes from that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I'll walk you guys through like how we did for this. We call it the Mashomak hunt, which is sort of like, I sort of think about it like we have like 3 or 4 stages. And so like the introductory hunt is usually something that's like going to be like, people don't have to like practice with like they don't have to become proficient with a bow. It's like they can show up and either shoot a gun or like a muzzle loader or like a crossbow or whatever. And basically after that, they get exposure to deer hunting. But then we're actually queuing in people right now because we have a big archery day that we've been running annually for the past like 4 years now. And so we have like a big archery, just like introduction to archery day. That's actually happening this Saturday. So we're gonna bring like last year, I think we had close to like 75 to like 80 folks. We like chartered a bus out of Grand Central, like 2 buses at a Grand Central Station that then like buses people up to Westchester. And basically, I mean, it's anyone who's interested in just like learning how to shoot archery. So like we have 3D targets, we've got a range, we've got like a tree stand station, which basically talks about like saddles, it talks about like blinds, talks about like climbers and all the things. We get people in and out, you get to shoot that at them. We also have like a wild game tasting session and talk about like venison. We talk about hunting regs and all the things. And that's really like how we like basically just introduce people to hunting at large. It's like a very like sort of low key, it's like a nice summary day, whole thing. But a lot of those folks, we also bring compound bows that are set with like the legal poundage, like 35 pounds for New York State, to make sure whoever wants to be like a mentee for the bow hunt can pull back that poundage. And then we actually equip people with a bow that we then like set up for them that day and then basically sign them up to be like, okay, in like 6 months, in like the end of November, December, you're going to be part of the cohort of archery mentees. And so what that means is that basically we got like 10 folks outfitted with bows, who then we have like a couple of different like touch points and like archery like days where we'll go to like rent out a range. There are a couple of ranges like in downtown, like one's in Chinatown, one is in Brooklyn. There's another one in Queens. There's a couple archery ranges here in the city. So we'll organize like some archery shoots and then also do like some 3D outdoor days with broadheads and stuff. But basically people will shoot over those next 6 months and get paired up also with their mentors to sort of work with them, do some scouting. And then on the actual day, it's like basically this perfect time, like for the rut. It basically times it perfectly out in Long Island. And we basically work with the Nature Conservancy. That's like a big land access piece that we get. And basically we help reduce their population of deer, one, which is a big priority for them to manage lots of land. But also it's like incredible, like primo, like incredible, like it's like unfathomable, truly, like the quality of deer hunting that we get to experience. And it's obviously for the mentees, right? Like, but like it is really awesome to be there as a mentor because like sometimes the mentee doesn't have a shot or sometimes they do have a shot and you're just like, oh my gosh, yes. Like we had our first mentee kill like their first deer, like with a bow, their first deer ever. And I mean, it was a beautiful buck. It was like beautiful, just like wide frame, like sort of chocolatey. And like, I was just like, I'll send you guys a picture of it, but it's like, it's so funny because like Muhammad now, like the mentee is now like going to be a mentor, like in future years. And that's I feel cool. Like that process, like we've seen sort of time and time again throughout like everyone's sort of individual journey. And it's really amazing to see like someone go from like the intro to where they've like really got no experience hunting to now they've like really like, they've got a bow. They've like been hunting, shooting themselves. They've been scouting. They're like going to the range on their own. And then like, you know, we get them set up in 3 stands. We go through all the limb line and sort of safety talk. And then like we hunt for like basically we hunt 4 different sits, like over the course of a weekend. We like are like in camp together. It's like a big, like sort of like either like a cabin or like an Airbnb that we rent out. We do cooking. So like we do like the whole, like how do you break down and process animals? And so like usually one of the mentors will shoot a deer beforehand. And then we'll like process it and do the demo and have everyone get their hands on it to like really sort of break down that mysterious process, how to clean a deer. And then we'll cook it. And like, it's a full circle that happens in like about 48 hours, which like, I think for a lot of people, you come away and you kind of feel like, dang, like this is my hunting family. And it's really cool to see that really like continue and like continue to grow like outside of us. Like, you know, we have groups of mentees who are like still going out and hunting together from like programs 3 years ago. And I'm like, we get a picture in the group chat and I'm like, yes, it's working.
No, it's awesome, man, for real.
Yeah, so it's cool, and we do that, you know, for not just deer, but we do that for other things too. Like we do turkey camp. We just finished that up this past spring, which is a blast. I mean, this is the biggest one. We had almost 15 to 19. I think it was close to it's probably 15. But we had like 10 new folks and then 5 returners from past years who were hunting alone now on public land. And so it was like cool to really see the transition happening too. And really, I think we're getting pretty good at trying to figure out how to like really like encourage people to like, you know, be that like good like parent figure where you're like, now go fly, leave the nest.
Yeah.
But also, like, we're here, you know what I mean? Like in case, you know, you got questions or whatever. But it's like really trying to get people comfortable to be able to like go out on their own, go on public land, go on, you know, go ask for access, go like bring other people out. And really like sort of progress in that hunting journey. It's something that we've been really, really, really pleased. And like, it's a big highlight for me. It's one of the most proud things I am of really seeing that thing go full circle. And we also had our first like mentee mentor pair, almost get a turkey this year. It was so close. That like, you know, the mentor was my mentee like for the past 3 years. So it's like, oh my gosh, like this is like, yeah, it's
full circle for y'all. It sounds like y'all got a really successful program going on up there. Like what sets apart, in your opinion, like the New York chapter? Like, because I know there's some others, right? But they don't seem to be as active. But it seemed like y'all really hit on something up there in New York. What can you say do you think is really responsible for the difference in success that y'all are seeing up there up north?
You know, man, I think the population is huge. Like, I think we got a lot of people. Like, I think that's the thing is I'm always like, you know, when I first started talking about hunting and fishing and all that stuff, and like I'm a fly fishing guide, and so like I was like before I started my business like in Central Park, I was like, oh, like who's gonna come? And then I was like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. I'm looking for like 0.1% like of like of New York City. I don't need 10%. I need 0.1. And so like I think the same thing with hunting. Like there's a lot of people here, and I think because of that, like there's also a lot of people who are looking for community and looking to get into the outdoors. And I think what how at least we've run it is like I think the big thing that sets us apart is like, well, like I have some amazing like partners and collaborators, man. Like so backcountry hunters and anglers the board chair Greg Whalen, and then the Nature Conservancy, incredible partner. And sort of with Paul Gallery is the guy's name, who's like the land steward who helps coordinate a lot of this stuff. And then also we have some great relationships with other land conservancies. So like Columbia County Land Trust, and also like, you know, a bunch of individuals who decide that like this is a priority for them to like mentor, to like show up and get these things done. And so like, you know, we have a lot of folks in the community who I think go above and beyond to like really help me and me, Greg and Paul, like get all this stuff like together from like all ends, because without like that many people buying in, like it would absolutely be impossible, because it's like from the land access to like the actual quality mentors, because you can't just have bad quality mentors of people coming in who like make people feel weird or uncomfortable or just don't know or feel unsafe, right? Like that's like the worst case scenario is like something like from a safety perspective happens. So we do a lot to vet that, but I feel like so many people like come together to make this thing happen because they've seen like the rewards of it. And I think also the state agency has been really integral for us too. Like they know that you know, it's basically a luxury, like, and very difficult to like organize these big like labor intensive winter hunts. And so the state's happy to see them happen. And so like if we ask for like gear or anything we need to borrow, like they'll just loan it to us, which is like really awesome. So
that was going to be my next question. It was, what about like gears? Are you working with any companies or anything like that?
Yeah, you know, it's something that I feel like we're always like trying to figure out more of and like scratch our heads on. Like right now we buy bows like every year, like from like Lancaster. But I'm like, honestly, if we could just find a bow sponsor, that would be so much easier to be like, look, we will buy your bow at whatever cost. And the thing is, like, usually how we operate is like, we'll buy new bows every year. And like, we usually hunt like the bear ready to hunts just because it's easy to switch for people. It's like readily, you can adjust the mods, and all the cams are like, literally, you don't even hit press. Like, you can adjust drawlings and everything for people on the range, which is great. So like, we'll fix everyone up. And then they hunt with it for the season. And the idea is that we give you this bow from like basically the summer to summer. So it's like, if by the end of the summer you're like, okay, this is great and I love this and I want to buy the bow, that's awesome, because you buy the bow from us and then we get to buy a new bow for the next year's Minty. If they're like, oh, maybe not, and that's fine, then we take it back and like we fix it up and everything. But I think the bow is a big turnover and something that we would love to figure out, like how do we get like a bow, sort of like an archery connect that gives us like a discount on like either purchasing like new equipment, etc., or getting like trade-ins. And then I feel like aside from that, we do a lot of camping stuff too. Like we camp for turkeys, we camp for late season deer. And then we also do some like fishing stuff too, that we're doing some camping as well. So I feel like that year we've basically been like trying to figure out like how do we sort of position ourselves, like reach out to companies that might be willing to like donate for it, because it is into like the really small like budget of like operating costs. Like I think the total operating cost for the budget for HFC is only like $5,000 a year. It's like nothing, and like I'm a volunteer and like no one else is paid or anything. So it's like even just an operating for funds and for like getting just like basic necessity, like the Nature Conservancy has been huge, because like they'll pay for like food and things of nature, which has been really great, because like all of the mentors and mentees who show up, it's a free event. Like we ask for people to make donations if they want, but like we really want to try to reduce those barriers. And also most people I think do like understand like, oh, this is like a several $1,000 like multi-day like individually guided like one-on-one like mentorship hunt, but for like 20 people at the same time. And so I think for some people, they don't like get that yet. But like when they're like, oh my God, I want to go hunting with a guide, and they see this price, they're like, how did I? And I was like, yeah, it's like that's the trade though, is that like we have so much return and amazing community members and people who like see the value in it. And now we're like, you know what? Now I'm going to hunt and learn and keep hunting hard and like shoot my first deer with a bow, so that I can be a mentor for next year. And so that's like, you know, we have like 10 people in the queue from the past couple of years who are like, I'm getting my deer this year and I'm going to be a mentor. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, go get it. Like, I think that's a really cool like model that I feel like has been really successful for us. That people see the value and they just want to keep on giving back to it, which has been really helpful, because it's totally community.
So Brandon, do you guys ever have any mentees that go through all the training, and then when it gets to that moment where they're ready to pull the trigger on the animal, that they just back out?
I love that question, actually. I love that question. At first, I thought you were going to say that they just don't show up. Yes, absolutely. It's so frustrating. I hate that. Shit. But, you know, it happens. Life happens. I get it. Like, I get it. Life does happen. But, yeah, we used to have an issue with that, like, more so where people would, like, have a bow be set up, and then it's like 8 p.m. on Friday night, and I'm like, we're being a tree in, like, 3 hours. Like, what? I'm like, where are you? And they're like, oh my God, like, I'm sick. I'm like,
oh man,
I'm sick too. But no, I feel like honestly, it's a great question about like pulling the trigger, and I feel like there have been a couple times, and this is obviously like over the course of I guess 5 years now, and like hearing from all the mentee mentor pairs, I feel like I've only really heard of one, no, two instances where it truly was the situation where like the mentee didn't shoot because they were like it didn't feel right, like they were like, oh, something's off. And it's funny, I'll tell you the full story on this too, because I actually think it's really important. And this was actually with me. And so, like, I'm not going to say the mentee's name, but obviously they hear the story, they're going to know. But it's fine. So, like, this mentee was, like, came up from, like, the sort of, like, the sort of pathway, right? Like, started off with, like, either a crossbow or a muzzleloader hunt. But, no, that was a crossbow hunt for them. And then they did archery. And, and then they loved their bow. They, like, basically just continued with their bow. They bought their bow, and they basically kept archery hunting for, like, 2 years. And so, essentially, they had been bow hunting a bunch after that, had come back to our archery program, and still just hadn't got a shot. Like, it was like some situations where like we had a deer at like 30 yards and it was a little too far. And then like we had others with like brush and stuff in front. It just didn't happen with the shot. So never actually has drawn back or anything, but like, was really like studying and learning the ways of bow hunting. And so like, we were like, we can't take that shot because there's brush in the way. Oh, one of them was like, oh, the deer was at 30 yards, but it was kind of quartering 2. And like, it would have been quartering 2 at like basically maybe 18 yards or so. And I was like, it's not a good shot for like a first timer. Like, you're not, and also shooting low poundage bows, like fixed broadheads, like it's not the right. So I was like, this is not the shot. And like, we talked a lot about that too. And it was just being like, and this wasn't just me. This was like me and like all the other mentors who have taken this person out, like bow hunting. And so like, he's gotten like an education in bow hunting over the past 2 years of like shots that you do and don't take. So now it's like opening rifle season in New York, like 2 years ago. And it's like me and him, and we're sitting on the ground. He's got my 308, and no, oh my God, he might have had a 30-06. He had a 308 or a 30-06. But anyway, we're sitting on the ground. No. He had a 50 cal muzzleloader. That's exactly it. He had a 50 cal muzzleloader. So, yeah, so we're sitting at the base of a tree, and I was like, watching basically this like at the bottom of this hill in this bowl, and I was like, hey, a deer's gonna come up here probably. And I kid you not, we have a deer that comes and does exactly what I said, but instead of turning down the trail and being broadside at about 40 yards, it's facing us straight on. And it's like this big doe, and we have doe tags. And I was like, okay, this is your time. So he like slouches down and like gets the crosshairs on it. And I'm like, mind you, like he's here looking straight at the deer, and I'm like off on his side, kind of like looking this way. And sorry, I'm pulling my computer and it's got that low battery alert. But basically, I'm over here like watching him look through the scope at this deer. And I'm like, okay, shoot. And now the deer's like doing the thing where it's like stomping. And I was like, shoot.
He blows, he goes.
And so I'm like on the side of the tree like this. He's looking down at the deer like this to the scope, and I'm like, shoot. And the deer's like, he's like, I can't. And I was like, what do you mean you can't? And he's like, I can't shoot. It's not the right shot. And I was like, no, shoot, pull the trigger. And so all of a sudden now the deer looks up, because at this point I'm like, pull the trigger. The deer looks up and then obviously just bounds off backwards. And I'm like, if there's no way I could spin around and shoot or whatever, because we do encourage, like, especially for a program, like if the mentee's not going to shoot, a mentor should shoot the deer. So that way it's like an educational experience for everyone to learn how to process it, right? So like we should try to shoot a deer. Like that's definitely the point.
Got you.
But let me tell you why. Because I think that's the more important piece of this. Because I went back then and was like, oh my gosh, like, how did this happen? Because also I was like, we did not have this person pegged. I was like, I totally thought that he was just going to be like, bam, got my first deer. Like after several years with a bow, you're thinking like, come on, like what?
Like that's a gimme with the rifle, like, or a muzzle loader in that case.
Yeah, 30, 40 yards, like broad, like straight up facing you, straight chest on. And so it's funny because after I was like, hey man, like what happened? And like that's the big thing too, is like, I had to check myself, and like all the other mentors who I told to also had to check ourselves, because we were like, wait, I think that mentee really, like, I feel like I learned so much mentoring, like as a hunter individually still. And I think that's one of the more important things that I did not anticipate. And I'm so thankful for like the very gracious mentees who are so insightful and so earnest. I think that they allow me to both like become a better hunter, but also to be a lot more like aware of like things that I take so much for granted, that I'm like, dang, like I got to do a better job explaining that to people. because basically the Minty was like, look, I've been bow hunting for 2 years, and I know that like we don't take shots with lots of brush in front of us. We don't take shots with over like 30 yards. We don't take shots with deer facing like quartering to or straight on. And I'm like, and so he was like, I like know I was shooting a gun, but I didn't really like know that much. Like, this is my first time shooting a gun or with deer hunting. And so like, I just know that like this felt wrong from all the things that I've been like pounded in my brain about deer hunting. And so I didn't do it. And I was like, dang, you're absolutely right. I'm so happy you didn't. I'm so happy you didn't listen to me. You're right. I'm wrong.
Funny how that works.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I really do feel like it's one of those things where like, I went back and told everyone, and we were all like, because we were first like, I can't believe like blah, blah, blah. And then we were like, dang, he was right. He was really right. And it's like, that's on us to explain, right? Like how things are different and how things are the same, and like how in certain situations things are, just a different, like it's just a different thing. But I think for me, like it was a huge highlight to be like, wow, like it's really impressive and powerful to see like how much someone really embraced that ethos of being an ethical hunter, to be like, no, like these are my lines and I can't draw it, even if the little people who taught me how to hunt are like, shoot. And so I'm like, that's actually something to be very proud of. Like, I think that like, and it's been great. Like that person has now come back and like is going to be at the archery day, has like mentored other people too. And so it's like, it's been really cool to see that journey go full circle. But, that is the moment that I think most like that, of like where someone didn't shoot. Of course, there have been moments where people couldn't get shots. So like the deer came in from the right instead of left, which is strong side for Minty. And so mentor shot. That happens all the time. And yeah, we had a crazy thing with turkey hunting actually this year, where a Minty couldn't see the turkeys because it's like they were crawling up, and they got up to this berm and they called this bird up over, and it came on the side of the mentor. And the Minty was like, and the mentor leaned over and was like, okay, the bird's on my left, but you're going to have to like stand up quickly. And then like, I'm going to slide back and shoot. And they're like, just shoot the bird. And so the mentor shot the bird. And then it was actually another Tom that was with that bird on the other side that then ran over, started attacking it. And then the Minty got to shoot a bird. And they had a double. And I was like, that's
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And so it's like, those things definitely happen all the time. But I feel like that was one of the ones where I was really like, dang, that I never expected it to be like that. Like I never expected that to be the reason. I thought it was just going to be someone was nervous or whatever. That has never happened. Because I think by the time that everyone gets to it, they've got so much sweat equity. They're like, oh, I've hiked into this trail. I've been up at 2 a.m. I've been like shooting my bow for 6 months. It's like everyone's like, no, I'm leaving with something. It's like that meme. I'm leaving with something. I'm like, hey, everyone is from around the way too. Everyone out here from Brooklyn.
You're right.
I'm like, they're from around the way. I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like, yeah, it's like I feel like people hunting in New York City too. I'm like, shit. Like, you go in the woods and you get out there, and then you drag yourself back to your car. You drive back, and you're like, well, damn, now I got to battle street parking for an hour and a half. Or when I shoot a deer, I'm like, well, dang, now I got to like either take multiple trips to get the meat from my car, from my street parking. I got to have my doorman or my neighbors or my apartment mates looking at me like crazy with blood dripping out of my backpack. It's like, so
I remember correctly, you had a situation like you was doing something like you was quartering an elk on the roof, cleaning some ducks on the roof or something I seen a while back on your Instagram. Like, I was like, hold on, man, that's the skyline. I know that's the skyline of New York City. I'm like, what is going on here, man?
Yeah,
like,
man. That balcony, that's my private garage. That's the Dale processing suite. No, it's actually funny. Whenever like my girlfriend and I, like whenever we were both living together here, it was like she's like a resident in different like institutions, but so like she's in a different city. Otherwise, we'd still be together and living together. But anyway, back whenever I'd shoot a deer, I'd be like, I got one. Bring the cooler down, and like literally like from the car, I have a rolling cooler to like throw everything into the cooler so it wouldn't leak. Because before I would put it in like my game bags and stuff, and like my doormen now are super chill, and they know that like the only people they're gonna see at 2 a.m. are like bleary-eyed med students who got off early. And me coming out with like a backpack, my like sort of bow case and all the things. And I'm like, have a good night. But yeah, no, I cleaned a lot of animals on my balcony. Still will. And it's great. Get a good view. And also like super functional, especially for like, trying to get the initial like bloodshot and plunk and stuff off there, like for birds. But yeah, I mean, I think you find a way. I think that's the big thing is you kind of just like, however, my uncle on my mom's side of the family has pictures whenever he used to be a truck driver, and would drive it. He lived in Atlanta, and so he would drive like basically all up and down like sort of the East Coast. And
95.
yeah, exactly. And he'd go and hunt in like the sort of like Blue Ridge Mountains area and like Dahlonega, and then come down. And after he shot a deer, he has pictures of him with a deer strung up like on his back quarters and is hanging from his apartment, like the second floor of the apartment building. And he's like showing people how to like clean deer in his freaking like parking lot of his apartment in Atlanta. I was like, this is crazy, bro. I was like, dang, it's insane how like all those
That's
things.
how you got it. That's where you got it from. Because I saw that, man. I was like, yo, this dude is different.
I was like, it just really it comes full circle, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. But like Trey, because you was telling me, what was it, man?
I had a podcast with a guy he lived in the Bronx, and he said that he had to take like a taxi to the subway, and the subway out east somewhere, and then he had to get on the bus and go to his walk-in spot, and he actually ended up killing a deer, and he had to pack it out, and he was like on the subway within his pack and everything. He's like,
yes,
looking at him all wild. I'm like, bro, before I spoke to him, I did not know that people in New York hunted. I thought like, New York, you're a city boy, you go to Central Park, you with your latte and you chill. He's like, nah, man, there's some serious hunters out here. You know what I'm saying? We got to do a little extra to get to it, but we do it.
Dude, I literally I would bet it's the same guy. I don't know if you spoke with Renee, but I have a buddy named Renee who like literally he will ride up. He lives in Brooklyn, and yeah, it's like he literally rides from his Brooklyn apartment to go to Grand Central on subway, then hits his Grand Central to get to Metro North to go upstate, and basically will get off and be right across from the Catskills and we'll go and basically take his rifle. He's a city permit and literally go shoot a deer, backpack and camp in the Catskills, come back with the antlers, and then he has like basically like instead of having like obviously like a gun symbol or something or like some sort of like manufacturer symbol on his case, he'll put like Met Opera and like all these different like instruments stuff on his gun case. And like has literally come back on the subway with like his antlers like sticking out of his pack, like a skull basically, and like a pack full of meat. And I feel like that's the sort of thing where I'm like, that's definitely rarer. Like I feel like most people just like rent a car or something, but it's cool that it's possible. Like it really is like, obviously that's I mean, you got to get up like 3 extra hours to do that just to even make your commutes. Cause like then your bus is late. Then you got it's just,
he was saying he was getting up at like 3 a.m.
Yeah. That's what you probably do to get, I mean, even then that could be pushing it like late. But yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I think
late at 3 a.m. Imagine that.
Yeah, right. That's crazy.
Oh, dude.
What happens if you miss your bus? Like if you take Metro North, say you get in late, or you get out the woods late and you miss, do you got to call somebody or you waiting for the next bus?
I mean, honestly, I think at that point you're probably gonna just camp another night until you're probably not making it that night.
Ain't nobody coming to get you that night, huh?
Yeah. But I think that's the cool part too, is like with community, it's like I feel like definitely like when I first moved here, I would like take the subway and bus and stuff a lot up to get outdoors. But once I got a car, I was like, okay, this is just a game changer in life. But I also then it kind of opened up the door to be like, oh well, now I can like take other people out with me, etc. And that's made it like super easy. But also like I don't know, a big thing is like camping, because a lot of times like even when I go up, like and I have a car, right? Like, but if I bummed a ride up with someone, I would never go up and do like a day hunt, like especially like this past year I was in the hospital every day, like for like med school. But when I was in grad school and I had a little more flexibility, I could go up and do a day hunt. So go like leave like when I got off work at like 7 or 8 p.m. drive up, go camp or camp or car camp, and then like hunt the next morning and be back at work by 12. I did that all the time in grad school, like 2 or 3 times a week. My PI is on this call, like my boss is like, I knew it. But that was awesome, and I love that. But like now, especially, and I think more akin to like how most people's jobs allow, it's like it's pretty much like most people who decide to like hunt and fish in the city, like and all the like mentees and like now mentors who like we've at least trained with, it's pretty much like a weekend endeavor. So it's like you come up and you're gonna camp basically, or like get an Airbnb or share like an Airbnb with people and kind of make deer camp. Like I think that's how the model we work. Like oftentimes it's like you're doing deer camp. And there is a lot of good access of like individual like public land spots you can go to like within 45 to an hour from the city, but you kind of need a car for it, or you hunt the evenings. So I've done that before, where I'll ride the evening up and then just like catch a 9 p.m. like Metro North down, which is not as bad. The morning is brutal just because it's like you got to be up at some crazy hour, and like oftentimes if you do miss a train, then your morning hunt's blown because you're going to the woods at like 8 a.m. and you're like, well, this is a waste of time, and I feel like a clown. So evenings are definitely better, but yeah, I feel like it kind of depends on how you want to do it. But I feel like the camping and going to hunt near or camp where you're going to hunt is definitely the move. So I feel like a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think that's how I would do it. If I had to take all those means of transportation, I'm staying 2 or 3 days. I'm making a trip out of it.
Absolutely.
You ain't
Make it
lying, but
worthwhile.
you gotta get the juice, make the juice worth the squeeze in that situation, baby.
Exactly. But with
So,
cars too, I think it's getting better.
So when it comes to hunting, Brandon, what's your? I already know the answer, so I'm excluding ducks. What's your absolute favorite thing to get after hunting wise?
You're excluding ducks. I mean,
Yeah, because I know that's your favorite.
I guess turkeys would be
You
second.
can't
Big
exclude
game.
ducks.
I'm going big game. What's your favorite big game? Let me say it like.
I mean, honestly, big game. Like, I love bow hunting deer. I really do. Like, I went elk hunting. This was 3 years ago now, and I like went out in Idaho to the Sawtooth Wilderness, and I had like elk tags, like for cow elk tags, and this was like a late season rifle hunt, so it was like cold as fuck and like sleeting and snowy and raining, and then also like steep, and also
Did you drive out there for that one, or did you fly?
No, I drove. That was actually insane. My
Okay,
girlfriend.
I thought so.
We drove from New York City to Denver, and we were actually living in Denver for like 2 or 3 months before then because I was like writing and she was doing like a residency thing, and also I was duck hunting a bunch in Denver. It was great, but because I didn't draw any tags out there, and this was like at the time when the OTC was getting like wonky, and so like
the beginning of the end of the good days.
yeah, it was. I know. Honestly, had I known, I really would have like been more on it because I was like, oh, like at the time this was just it was like there were a little more obstacles in front of getting OTC at the time, and I was like, I'll just like hunt ducks every day. But I wish I had known, like in retrospect, to be like, dang, this would be my only opportunity because I've been like, yeah. But anyway, regrets. But
We all got it.
Exactly. And so then after that, I went and drove and met my rest of my hunting party and some of my buddies out in Bozeman, Montana. And then basically from there, from Denver to Bozeman, then we drove from Bozeman to Haley, Idaho. And so
All in all, how long did that take you?
No, like the entire stretch.
Yeah, driving.
I was elk hunting for like 7 days, like actually there, like hunting, and then we came back, but it was like 9 to 10 to get back to Bozeman, and then from Bozeman to Denver. That was like a 1 day, like I don't know, it was like maybe 12 hours or something like that. And then the Denver to New York City trip back was painful. It hurt me deep. But I did come back with a bunch of elk, so I was like, all right, I'm not that mad.
It was worth it.
It was still worth it. I was like, it's worth it. I was like, find me on the streets.
If I remember right, you didn't even drive a truck out there, didn't you? Did you take your car?
No, man. Yeah, so I in that regard, I almost wish I'd kept it even more stealthy because basically I drive a Hyundai Accent, like a little hatchback. And I mean, realistically, it was because I was like, one, I'm a grad student. And when my girlfriend and I bought this car, and this was back in like 2020, and this is when the cars were going crazy because everyone's buying them up for the pandemic, especially in the cities. So like all the cars from basically like here to like Massachusetts were like basically bought out because everyone's like, oh my God, like public transit's gone. I need to learn how to drive and buy a car. And I was shit, I need to get a car. And so, yeah, basically got a Hyundai. And also I was like, look, I'm going to park on the street, so I want to make sure it's small enough, etc. And basically got the Hyundai, and I was like, all right, she whips. And yeah, I mean, I've taken that car to so many places it should have never been. And it's amazing that it's not been flooded, stuck, or really still runs. But yeah, I mean, it's also, I think it's a stealthy, super sneaky hunting vehicle because before I kitted it out with like my fly fishing rod and then like a Thule where I kept all my like archery and like rifle and hunting and all my hunting stickers on it and made it obvious that I was a hunter, it was super stealthy because it was just a random black city commuter car. And I pull up to the trailhead, people are like, oh, probably just hiking. And I remember I would literally be like, beat someone to a trailhead. Like this is like up in Westchester. So like not far from where I am in New York City, like where I would go for a day hunt, like 30, 40 miles north of here. And I remember parking in the trailhead a couple times and like being in like early, right? And like usually I'll get into the parking lot, get my stuff together, and then kill my light and walk in for the first 100 yards so no light. So that way I can look back at the parking lot and sort of see like who's coming in behind me and if there are. And I remember like there were people who I remember pulled up right by my car and I could see their lights, like their trucks kind of slow up and kind of stop and then like cruise backing around and sort of were debating like, am I going on here? Am I not going on here? Like, what's this car doing here? It's probably not anything. And then like they pulled up there and I was like, okay, so they're going to hunt here. They decided whatever. And, you know, at this point, I'm like up basically like I wasn't hunting far from the road at this time because it was like one of these situations where I think a lot of people walk right past where the deer were bedding. And so I was like pretty close to the road. And like,
I said that last week.
yeah. A lot of people go and that's the thing is like, and I'm all for it. Like go to the back. I think that is the right time and place. But I think especially if there's one way in or this is like a peninsula and it's like you go 300 yards, but you don't just follow the trail. You go in 100 yards and hang a right. And you're like in a completely different deer zone, and like no one's going in that way. The beds are all thick in there, and like you go into the right wind, and deer are gonna just be in you like right there, watching also all the hunters come into the cars. And so that's what I was like. Oh, I'm gonna play a deer game today, and I literally watched the people get out of the car and like look at my car as they're like getting their lights and stuff on, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I was like, I have no idea. I'm up in the street watching them. Yeah, and then after that, you know, came down, didn't see anyone whenever it came out. And like my car was the last one there, but it wasn't until I started kitting it out and putting like all this hunting stuff on it that I was like, man, I'm blowing my cover. Because then I started finding stickers on my hood like, did you get anything? Or like, I was hunting here too, like numbers. And I was like, my stealth is gone. But it was actually fine. It was good to be able to then connect with people who hunt in the same areas and chat with them. But I do not regret stealthy hunting cars though.
No, I used to hunt in the GMC terrain, and people would never. They pull up to the trailhead and they're like, "Oh, he ain't hunting," and they get out and everything. And I'm like, "Nah, but I'm in here hunting."
Exactly.
I remember seeing you have a deer or two in the back of that, or back of something too. I was like, you drove that out there? I remember I hit you up. Y'all good for that. You and Brandon on the same type of time.
Hey,
I stopped at I had killed 2 doe, and I stopped at a gas station to get some ice to put in the cavity, whatever, and get out the car, go get the ice. And as I'm parking, game warden pulls up, but I ain't tripping. I'm all legal. So I go get the ice. I come back out and I pop the trunk and I'm putting ice in. And he walks over. He goes, "What's under those tarps?" Because I had a big, blue tarp in the back.
Yeah. Yes.
I break the tarp, and this game warden loses his shit. He starts laughing. He goes, "Hold on, man." He gets his phone out and FaceTimes another game warden that was in the next county. He goes, "Dude, I gotta show you this." Flips his camera, and I hear the game warden, the other guys just laughing. He goes, "What kind of car is that?" He goes, "The GMC terrain." Like, this guy's hunting in the GMC terrain. And then he goes, "Where were you hunting at?" So I tell him. He goes, "You took that car back there?" And I'm like, "Yep." He's like, he goes, "Hey man, get it how you live, bro."
Hey, I'm telling you, don't sleep. Don't sleep.
Nope.
Those little people drives.
Y'all funny. That cracked me up when I saw that picture, man. I said, yo, Trey don't care. I said, they gonna get out there by any means necessary.
Get it, man. And the crazy is that was my work car. So like 2 days later, 2 days later, my boss gets in the car and he goes, "You been hunting here?" I'm like, "Yep." He was like, "Man, you wow." Like,
that's hilarious. Oh my gosh. No, that's
I remember probably about 4 years ago, man. Me and my cousins, first time me and him ever hunted together. We didn't see nothing all morning, so he's like, "Man, let's go get lunch." So we pull into the gas station, and I pull in behind, like this little Honda, like a little Civic or whatever. Game warden's there. There's a bunch of police cars there. I'm like, "Man, what's going on?" So on the front of this Honda, they got probably 160-inch 12-point strapped to the hood of the car.
Wouldn't fit in the back seat.
And the game warden's there, like asking him all the questions. Like the police is there. They was like, "Man, we're gonna let you go, but you can't drive around with this deer on the front of your car." He said, "Well, my truck's in the shop. I can't do nothing else." So I was like, "Hey,
you can't let it stop you, man." Hey, dude, back in the 30s, they didn't. Oh, not 30s. We say the 40s. They had a Volkswagen. They had the joke strapped to the top. Man, you got to get it.
So I mean, he was had to go get it. And he's like, "Man, this is legal. I killed it." He said, "I didn't have my truck, so I just put it on where I could fit it."
I think that's so real. I shot my first bear 2 years ago, and it was a pretty big bear. It's probably like 300, 315. And I remember when I put that thing in my back seat, my entire car, like even that's just the meat because we'd skinned it out because I was going to drop the hide off to the taxidermist. And when I put the coolers, it was like we had to go buy every styrofoam cooler from a gas station. It was like me and four of my buddies. We each left with like almost 100 pounds of meat. And I'm like putting the meat up in the coolers in my back seat, and I throw the hide in the back. And I have a picture. It's I'll take it out and send it to you guys. But it's literally me with my Hyundai and the freaking bear skull and hide, like in the back seat.
I didn't see that one. I missed that one. Please send me that.
I'll dig that one out too. And then I got another one from deer season because I shot 2 does. And it was like I was hunting with like a bunch of my buddies, but I was like off on a different section of parcel. And so I like dragged both of them and threw them both in the back of my car. Like field dressed them and then threw them in the back of my car, and I was like, dang. I have like the seats, the little waterproof like seat covers. But that car's been through a lot. But she still rides. She whips.
Yeah, I know that's right. You got an upgrade coming soon once you get all done with school, or you gonna stick it out? What you gonna do?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna hold on to it forever. Like my girlfriend has like she has like a 4x4, like a Subaru that like honestly it has better clearance than everything I would do. And I'm gonna put trailer hitch on that. But I feel like once we leave New York City, I want a Tacoma. So or Tacoma or Maverick, but something little 4x4 with like pretty high clearance that I can like also put one of those like tents on and like basically just kit out a little bit. But that'll be after. Once I'm not parking on the city streets, that's because all the cars get destroyed here too. It's like
we talked about your road gear. What's your archery setup right now? What bow you shooting? What arrows? What you sight and all that good stuff. What's your setup looking like for archery hunting right now?
Yeah, so right now I shoot and have shot pretty much like honestly that was like I traded my first bow. After that, I shot some trad bow, which is like a Fred Bear, like Kodiak Magnum. It was like a 50-pound, like 28 ammo. But then after that, I basically have the only recurve or the only compound that I've shot since then is a BTX 28. I have a short draw cycle, and so like basically it was nice because it has a pretty hard back wall, and also I like Bowtech in general. Like I was debating between Matthews and the Bowtech thing, but it's like a 2016 BTX. Basically short draw, and yeah, it's great. I shoot it like probably like. It's got like the performance and then the like one of the I forget what it's called, but one of them is like high performance where you get like slightly better IBO, and the other one is like a little easier on like the sort of like let off. But basically I'm probably shooting around like 60, 65. But honestly, I feel like I should drop it back because especially like late season when it's like freaking like 20 degrees out here and like we still have bow hunting, it's like go back in years. It feels like years. You've got every single layer on too, and you're like, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, that's true because it's a lot colder over there than it is in Texas.
That was like, my first real season bow hunting here. That's when I was like, man, I can't be taking all my clothes that I thought I was going to be able to use in the South out here. I need to get real clothes because at first I was just putting over my hunting layers from like Mississippi. And it does like cold snaps and stuff, but like then just putting like a ghillie suit and layering it, and I froze my butt off in that stand. I was like, bro, it is like snow and ice on a tree that I'm climbing, and it's December. It's crazy. But anyway, so I shoot a BTX, and basically my like arrow setup, I like BHA had a raffle, and it was like a set of like really nice like Victories. I think they're Victory VAPs. I want to say VAPs, but yeah, it's like the Victory archery arrows, and like basically I've got the Iron Will like brought inserts. Like my buddy is honestly like pretty like he like basically is our bow tech for HOC. His name's Greg, and I was like, Greg, I want some high quality arrows that I can take with me because I put in for some tags at one point to go in for elk, and like I was like, maybe I'll like. But then also in general, I was like, I want like a pretty good like arrow setup because it was like we see bear regularly enough to where I was like, I want to have something that I can like to potentially get through bone. And so like it's a pretty heavy FOC, like it's almost like 22-23% FOCs and like pretty heavy like darts really. And like I grew up pretty much shooting like standard like Walmart like Carbon Express arrows, and was like, let me slap one in, let me get you 150 grain like broadheads, like these literally like at my desk, like these little, if you've been shooting bows for a long time, it's like,
At some point.
With those.
the OGs. That's the OG. We're like, let me pick something up.
Yep.
And so like, yeah, that's where I came from. And then like Greg is all in the, IPO and all the things. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me get behind it and see what it is. And now it's like, look, it's true. It's like a laser. Like I feel like my bow actually shoots way better now that like I'm shooting heavier arrows. And then also like I feel like we got like all of my axis like aligned. Like before, I think I was just aligned like X, Y, and didn't really have any of like the adjustments for like timing and everything. That like, because I usually will take my bow shop like, or my bow to a shop like maybe once every 2 years. But like honestly, I'll shoot it like a bunch in the summer. And if I feel like I'm able to like hit where I want within my 30-yard distance, then like I'm not gonna like tinker out after 40. That's just not how I bow hunt generally. But yeah, and so now I'm shooting iron wills. They're 125 with like a 50 grain insert. And then like the actual sleeve as well is like another 20 or 50. So yeah, they're pretty heavy. Like the FOC is definitely heavy. And I switched over this past like 2 years into like pretty heavy FOC stuff. But I'm really happy about it too, because like I've had like this past year I killed a deer that I wouldn't have killed that deer, and it would probably like I would have fatally maimed the deer had I not been shooting heavy arrows. Because basically I was sitting and sort of hunting in this giant bowl that like had a bunch of like barberry and sort of just like really like individual like sort of long waspy thin things that you can't really see that well, especially at 20 or low light. And like deer comes out and it's like basically swinging out in front of me, and it's like in this bowl, so it's not far, it's like 15-20 yards, and like I'm basically shooting, I don't know, I wasn't too high, it was maybe 13-15 feet in a tree, and I shot right over right side, basically quartering away. So I was like, oh great, awesome. Boom, boom, boom. Deer's quartering away, right? So it's sort of staked out like this. And my arrow, perfect to go into shoulder. And all of a sudden, all I see is, and the deer just drops. And I was like, what? Literally, there was a branch, this like little invisible branch that kicked the backside of my fletching up. And it basically completely, it basically severed the skull of the deer. It was like insane. I mean, literally, skull, died on impact, no fall whatsoever. But it's like, didn't see that time, but also if I wasn't shooting heavy arrows, it wouldn't have punched through the skull. And I'm like, that deer would have been like fatally injured. That like maimed. It wouldn't have been injured. It would have been maimed and have not died immediately. But I think without the heavy arrow setup, I was like, okay, obviously not intended. But you can't anticipate branches too. It's like if anyone is like, oh, I haven't shot a branch, it's like then that you haven't been bow hunting enough. Like you don't see a branch and it changes your arrow direction.
Yeah, you do your best to see them, but sometimes they just sneak up on you. Like
yeah,
Yeah,
and hopefully you miss, right? That's the idea, that you miss. And so that's why I was like, oh my God, how did it drop so quickly? And then I got down there and I mean, I can show you guys. It's like, I was like, this is wild. But also like after that point, I was like, I'll never not shoot heavy arrows again. And also I went and knocked down every single like living thing in that shooting lane. I was like, hell no.
Yeah, you just got it all up out of there.
Yeah, I was like, all right, well, it'd be like that sometimes. But yeah, so
you say you rarely shoot over 40, right? So what type of sight are you running right now? I'm guessing you got fixed pins.
Yeah. So I shot a fixed pin, and it was like a trophy ridge, but I actually switched to a single pin, and like I think that I'm torn about whether or not, just because I'm like I could basically shoot a fixed pin at 20, and it like ostensibly be the only pin I use, and like I changed back because like now I'm like, the part of me that like wants to prepare to potentially go west, or even if like we decide to cash in our Iowa tags, like I'm gonna need more than my 20-yard pin. And also like I want to be comfortable at like getting the sight picture to be like, that's my 30, put it at 30, that's my 40, put it at 40, etc. So I'm like basically experimenting a little bit this year, because like I originally shot a single pin and then I went back to like the 5 pin. It was like a trophy ridge, so nothing fancy. And then like now I'm back to the single pin that I borrowed from a buddy. And it's like one of those like sliding rotary like single pins. And like I was like, okay, let me go back to this, see how I like it, because like I am not yet. I don't think I'm going to be hunting in any long range, or even to where I like need to have more than 30 yards, like archery situations for the next like year and a half. Like I think in 2027 I might try to put in for elk tags, or we might cache our Iowa. At that point, I do think I like a multi-pin picture better, but I think for most of my hunting practicalities and most of my hunting situations with the bow, a single pin is totally fine. Yeah, I did switch. I one thing I did though is that I usually actually this is the first year that I ever switched to a thumb release. I was a classic like wrist guy, wrist trigger finger from like kids. Like as soon as I like started hunting, I just like loved it, kept it, and like never changed it. And I like put a thumb on for the first time this year and was like, okay, I see it now. I like it.
Which ones you end up going with?
So I've actually borrowed a couple of my buddies. This is at the end of season that I was just trying them because I was shooting my wrist still like throughout the season, but I wound up shooting a bunch of like he had like it's like a Razor chocolate, I think, or chocolate LTE. I don't know the name of the brand, but I think it's something chocolate LTE or chocolate Razor or something like that. And then another one was like a black I don't know the names of them honestly, but I like them, and I'm gonna start looking around at them now to sort of figure out which one I want to get for the season and go full force because I do think that like I enjoyed the action of being able to have like an anchor that didn't slide because at the wrist I oftentimes feel like I had to like readjust it all the time to where it was like really coming back to my anchor point all the time. Whereas like it's kind of nice to have like a fixed object that also doesn't have to be on your wrist, so it just sits on your bow. So
That's
I think
exactly why I switched to.
yeah, exactly. I feel like yeah, I was reluctant because I was like, why if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I'm like, now I'm like, okay.
I mean, I felt like it was broke because, like you said, I could never get the strap was always sliding. Like once it got like stretched to a point, like I couldn't get it to stay put. And I was really having some trouble, so I switched it over and I put a nose button. Because like
Oh,
with my
yeah.
facial hair, like the kisser button, I can't always feel it, so I was
Mhm.
having a little trouble with that. But I put that nose button on there and got that. I shoot the Ultra View thumb release, and I absolutely love it. Expensive, but man, I love it. Hopefully, I don't have to buy another one.
That's the problem too. I'm like, man, $200 for a release. I'm like, Lord, I get it. It's a high quality like trigger, but I'm like, oh.
It hurt. And wait till Black Friday. That's what I did. That's when I pretty much get all my stuff.
That's good.
It's November. Because
Oh
Trey,
yeah.
you shoot thumb too, or you shooting on the wrist?
No, I shoot thumb release. I shoot the hot shot X spot, and that
much?
joker is like 275, but it's
I shoot a really
I love
wrist deal because
Okay.
I'm not paying no $200-300 for no release. I'm sorry.
Hey, honestly, see, that's my problem. Is now that I tried because my friend had a couple of extra really nice ones, and so now that I tried because I looked up the exact ones and I was like, Lord, these are like $200 or $300.
yeah.
Was,
You're talking about that Carter chocolate.
yes, the chocolate, chocolate.
And that joker is $257.99.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, that's exactly it. And I was like,
I'm
I'm
out.
shooting that wrist because then I started looking. Yeah, I'm like, then I start looking at the cheap ones, and I'm like reading the reviews, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly it. The chocolate addiction. It is nice. It is really nice.
It matches our skin.
Yeah. Hey, that's my nickname, chocolate addiction.
Hey, look. Hey, you want to hear something funny? The Ultra View button I shoot because I got the stainless steel one instead of the aluminum. Is $349.99.
Yeah, forget that.
No,
That's crazy.
no.
You get an aluminum one for $299.99. So I just went ahead and paid the extra like $50 or whatever to get the stainless steel one.
No, thank you.
It's super adjustable though. Like I mean, it's great, but everything in this industry, the cost is going up.
Yeah.
You gotta pay to play, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but see, it's not, at least they got public land out there in New York. Like I learned a lot about like the hunting landscape because of Brandon out there. Because I was like Trey before. I'm like, man, New York City. I'm like, man, what they doing up there? You know what I mean?
In New York City.
Yeah.
But while we're speaking of public lands, you got any thoughts on what's going on with your guy, everybody's favorite senator, Mike Lee from Utah?
Dude, I mean, yeah, everyone's thoughts, hopefully. And if it's not your thoughts, then you're not for everyone. That's for dang sure. But no, man, I mean, I think the attack on constantly on public land is absolutely just wild. It's like we've seen it. There was that like initial bill that like was sort of being slotted into the last moment that was then rescinded and sort of walked back. But it is really like this is a moment in history that we're going to look back on, and I think deeply regret if we don't stop this. And I think it's one of these things that I really worry about, like my children, like my children's children, like the generations that are going to come after that. Not only that they won't have it, but that they won't even know that they don't have it. Like that's scary to think about, like a world in which like you are in an area that like once used to be like accessible to everyone and like recreation was available to it, and now it's just like, oh no, this is like owned by like some major farmland and it's never going to change back into public hands. And like that's kind of crazy to think about, because like the fact that this thing is also bigger than what people anticipated. Like I don't know if you guys saw like the ONX maps that are sort of distributing all of the properties that are actually being sort of in question for sale. But it's like it's large. It's like a pretty large and like encompassing swath of like also edge habitat. Like a lot of it isn't just in the middle of like random blocks of state land. It's like on the edge of like some developers like, you know, riverfront property, or like the sort of habitat fronts that like obviously is what wildlife need. So my concern with it is that like, yeah, people are not even going to be aware of what we've lost. And I feel like, you know, the bigger thing of like how I sort of think about like getting new people into hunting, you know, is like, how do we make people who live in New York City or live in any major city or don't hunt or don't come communities that feel like they care about conservation or that they should care about conservation? Like, how do we like bring that message and that like focus to be like, look, like this is something that we should all care about, because like a loss on that front really impacts us all. And I feel like hunting and fishing is a great way to introduce that to people. But it is like really, really like just wild to see the constant sort of onslaught. And I feel like our responsibility as hunters and anglers is really to be able to like be the people that obviously represent that, but also how do we then branch out to talk to people who don't even know like what's on the line? Because I think so many people have no idea.
Yeah,
Truly.
and those are going to be the people that you have to win over.
Totally, that's the majority.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sadly, yeah. Like, and the thing is, like we talked about this on our last show, like on Thursday. Like my thing is, like once if this one goes, you know, that's not going to be the last one. It's going to be like that first domino, and it's all downhill from there. Like public lands are fire sale is coming if we let them get one.
Yep.
It's just, it don't really make no sense, man. Like it's just really, really unnecessary, especially when they use the excuse that they're going to use it to address the affordable housing crisis. It's the party line coming out of Utah.
But you know, that's what they use just to get their foot, like to get the support of the
the
non hunters or people who don't too much care about the outdoors. Oh yeah, affordable housing, we all need that, and you start getting steam.
Yeah. No, that's exactly it. And that's why I think honestly, like one of the biggest things that like I think is so important is I think hunting and fishing is one of those things that really cuts across everything, like political lines, like sexual orientation. Like I think everyone and anyone should care about our ability to protect and engage with our natural wildlife. And like we also all at some point in time, even if you're vegetarian, animals die for you to eat. And so it's like that's a fundamental of being human. And like I think a lot of people either choose or don't choose to like acknowledge that. But I feel like putting that on the forefront really then allows people to see that like, hey, like every motion you make is kind of political in a way. So it's like, why not be informed at least, and also be like willing to then put your like say in. And it's like, you know, if that means calling your senator here who in New York City thinks no one cares about hunting. So whenever the governor is like, hey, I want to like impose this like bill that's going to restrict people's access on public land, it's like, oh my God, wait, we heard from like 2 people in New York City that now this like one legislator is like, I didn't even know people cared about that. And it's like, we only needed 2. That's like all we need. And so I feel like that's the thing is like, you know, similarly as you had mentioned, Trey, like I feel like leveraging this like issues that are going to appeal to like one or the other party or group of people who are interested, like it's really trickery in a lot of ways. And so I just really feel like us like being able to really just meet people where they're at and be like, look, like access and public land is like good for everyone regardless. And I feel like that's like the fundamental that I think, you know, people don't want everyone to realize, which is crazy.
Absolutely crazy. I couldn't agree more with you on that. And I mean, like, so you said it. As far as bringing more people into the outdoors, that's one of the things like we are really about here at New Jack, and we're trying to do that as well. What do you think the best way is to go about that? Is it through like inviting? So I know you cook a lot. Like, do you get people that take an interest? Like, say you prepare something wild for them. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Reaching out to more people, especially more people, you know, like from underrepresented communities.
Yeah, man. I think definitely like, I mean, I think with like for you guys for like New Jack, I mean, you guys are kind of doing it right. Like the fact that you guys have like you know an all black guy like podcast about bow hunting. Like, come on, that's like. But I think also like I think a group's like 24/7, right? That were really kind of like pushing the culture in a lot of ways that are now like on everyone's big screen. And I feel like being out there and like just being like showing up as yourselves, I think is like a big part of it. But I think in terms of introducing new people to it, like I feel like food is the easiest way that I found to get new people into it. So like you go to a farmer's market or like you go to a party, and like I will do this all the time, and it sometimes it backfires because then everyone's like, hey, does your like literally I've brought wild game to like my girlfriend's family's house before, and then like I'll have like my like girlfriend's mom like messaging me about like people who have messaged her about like the wild game sausage and stuff, or like, oh, is there any more of that goose or duck like from like that like from that 4th of July party? And so like I think just bringing wild game is a great thing because so many people, especially like you get to tell that story about the animal and about like the experience there, and then they're like, wow, like I had no idea that that's something that you could do, and also it's good. Like I think when people try it and they're like it's good, they're like, huh. Yeah, and so I think food is an awesome gateway. Like I think doing that, especially like not even at a hunting event, like especially at not a hunting event. So like a potluck, next time you go to, bring something wild game and be like, look, this is like a deer chili that I made, or like I'm making like deer nachos or whatever, or just sausage or backstrap even. Like I think just getting people introduced to the idea of eating wild game is then like that next thing to be like, well, if I can eat it, then what's the next step for me to hunt it? And so then like, buy the licenses to like invest in that area, to invest in that landscape, and then eventually like start voting to protect that sort of area. Like that's like the mind circle that I like to think of. And like, of course, some people jump on, some people jump off. That's fine. But I feel like that food is usually the first entry for a lot of people. And so like you guys have events, just like always have some wild game out. Or if you guys are going to like table somewhere at like farmers markets, or you're going to like a rod and gun club, or even if you're going to like, like a sneaker convention, or like whatever your own personal interests are too, like, or your work conventions or whatever, or your own personal work, like potluck, bring wild game. And I bet you're going to walk away with some hunting buddies coming up pretty soon. They'll be like, hey, I need some more of that. And eventually you'll be like, well, you got to come hunt it now because I can't keep
come get it. I can't be your
Yeah,
supplier.
come put the work in.
I can't be your supplier.
Exactly. Be like, I ain't no supplier. So
Right.
I said it on a show a while back, but like as hunters, we have to move, like try to move people through like what my industry we call a disposition funnel. So it's kind of like an inverted triangle. So at the top you got like your non-hunters. So like how can you get them interested? And it'd be, in my opinion, food. Hey man, I make these deer burgers, and it's like 50% deer, 50% brisket, and I'll serve it. Oh man, that was really good. And then you tell them the story behind it. Because like for me, when I'm serving wild game, there's a built-in story right there. Like, and get everybody around. Oh, let me tell you about this deer, and then you go into the story. Well, if you got 10 people, you might get 3 or 4 of them that might be interested. Now you move them down to now they're in that interest, like start asking questions. Then you move them down to, oh, well, let's go to a range with me, or let me take you out, put up game cameras or something. And then they start seeing the process behind it. Now you move them down to, they start, want to shoot a bow or shoot a gun, and they're getting their tags. Then you move them all the way down to the bottom where boom, now they're a hunter and they're an advocate. Sometimes you don't get them all the way to the hunting stage. They might just get to the interest stage, and now they kind of care about it, but it's just kind of moving them down from that not having interest at all to at least caring about, where the food comes from and all that stuff. So it's, as hunters, we got to, try to move people down. And you said it best. The best way to do it is through food, man. Because that's how we've been doing it for years, is storytelling over food. And when you actually have a story about the food you just hunted, that makes it even better.
No, that's beautifully said, man. I love that funnel model too, because I love that you said that not everyone has to get to the bottom. You're right. Like ultimately, like I don't know. I feel like I'm like pretty pragmatic, and so like I don't really care if everyone becomes a hunter. Obviously, I'd love that personally. I would love it, and also I'd be like, all right, well, as long as not everyone's like hunting at the exact same spot that I'm trying to hunt that day, I'm like, we can share days, but no, ultimately though, all those people who are on that journey moving through, it's like they will then vote appropriately and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna care to protect these resources and not like sell off our lands to like some contractor. or like, try to like mine in something or in like a way that's going to damage the landscape, in some place that's protected. And so it's like trying to think about like how do people then just become one step closer to their food, is a big part of how they sort of start thinking about how they want to like leave their legacy in the box. And I feel like that's, in this society, like how we have the best impact. So I think it is true that like, I like that model a lot that you were mentioning, that like step down.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of box, right? Like, what do you say to the people that like they may be afraid to hunt or uncomfortable because they feel like, I feel like everybody has like this Elmer Fudd image of most hunters, right? Like they think you're like super country, super redneck, this, that, and the third. But I
Yeah.
mean, just look at us, right? Like we're all black guys on here, whatever, but you're literally about to be a doctor. You have a PhD. We got an ex-football player up there. We got a country guy from Kentucky, another one from the East Coast, ex-military. Like we're all different. And like you see that we were changed. We have personalities. We still listen to the same type of music that you like. We laugh, we joke. Like, so what do you say to the people that like feel like they won't fit in, or how do we make the space more welcoming for people?
That's a great question. Yeah, I think one of the big things is like, I actually literally, my God, man, you're like took the words literally right out of my mouth. I just finished like a book that like is on hunting and basically trying to get the new, like it's called Hunting a New Conversation, really, and it's focusing on trying to talk about like some of the stories that I've been talking about as well, just getting new people into the outdoors. And I literally talk about the description of what do people think of when I say hunter. And Elmer Fudd is that number one thing, right? That's the image that comes up. And so, like, my entire argument in the book, and really in everywhere, is that, like, I think the biggest, like, challenge for the hunting community and, like, the biggest, like, reward for the hunting community is to eventually get to a point where the word I'm a hunter literally looks like whoever said it, mirror reflection. And it's like, that I think once you hit that, like that's like when we know, okay, cool, like this is where we're supposed to be. And so I feel like one of the things that I tell a lot of people, and I think a lot of people as well tell me when they come into like the community and programming here in New York, is like they were like, yeah, I just like never really thought I'd feel so welcome. And so it's a simple thing, right? It's not saying like, oh, I feel like I found like my second lost family, or but it's like I just feel welcome. And like I think that's a big thing, is like any community that you like organize or hunt or anything, like really going out of your way to make sure that if someone new shows up, you go and introduce yourself to them. You go and like make sure that like they are like feeling like they can be sitting at the table, like part of the community, like that they can reach out to you like for questions and stuff, and that like they really feel like not only that they are like a welcome part of the community, but also like they're welcome to shape and both mold the community in a way that they feel is good, or that like it serves like to the like larger whole of the community. And so it's like, if someone's like, oh, like I'm not really sure if like I'm that into like, like I don't know how to do anything with cooking yet, but like I'm kind of interested in like really trying to get into scouting. And so it's like, well, that's great. Like if you want to help lead like a scouting thing and like get all into like the scouting piece, like you can go and do that. Sort of like trying to figure out like how do you like leverage people's strengths to also then like really make them feel like they belong and are part of this community. And I feel like one of the biggest things you can do is just be welcoming. And I feel like, I think one of the beautiful things of hunting, and I mentioned this before, is that it really does cut across. Like we've been hunting since we were as a species here. And I feel like the reason that is the case is because like the way we hunted back in the day, it was super communal, right? It was like, we're going to go and drive like a mammoth off of a ledge and then like hike down like a mile and like somehow get all of that meat off the ledge up to the clinic, up to the top, to then feed like our entire village. It's like, that's obviously not what we're doing now. But I think like this idea that it's like rooted in a community is why things like deer hunting camps people love. Why things like, archery shoots, like the multi-day archery shoots, is because it's a community. You're coming together over something that is instinctual, that connects you, that feels just like you don't need to explain, like, that's a good shot. Everyone's like, ah,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, or like someone comes in with a deer or with a rabbit or a squirrel, whatever. It's like, you don't have to explain it. Everyone's just kind of like, wow, like, yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that sort of like community buy-in, I think is like something that like, any of these spaces that have like mentored hunts or any sort of like hunting gathering, it like sort of focus, excuse me, really I think can do a much better job of just making sure that everyone really feels welcome, even if, you know, they're the only person that might look like them or think like them or talk like them or whatever, dress like them. And I feel like, you know, honestly, in my experience, like the hunting community at large has done a pretty good job at this. I think there are obviously much work to be done, which is why, you know, this and other programs like Hunters of Color and all the other groups and things in nature that are sort of starting to like create these spaces are doing such important work. But I think a big part of it is just like really making sure that like when you have someone in, like it's not only like your responsibility, but it's also like it's not just our responsibility as hunters to like be that like sort of olive branch and extension to people. It really is like a calling. Like it's like we as hunters like didn't start as individuals. We hunted now as individuals as a product of like quote unquote progression. It was always community though. Like we were always hunting for food in community. And I think like getting back to that, I think is really like what the true core of, I think for me, like what hunting is. And I feel like, you know, community members are obviously going to be welcoming because you obviously want to commute the same task. And I feel like a big part of that is just really meeting people where they're at and being like, look, we can think differently on X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 blah. That can all not matter for now. And like we can come together over this thing that like we are sharing in and really like recreating and really uniquely in like right now together. And that's like, that's pretty rare of a lot of other things. Like you can go play a tennis game with someone and you're in it, but you're not really in it. You're not really trying to like fool a wild animal. You're not really, you're like, it's you versus the person, right? It's not you engaged with nature in all your senses like another animal with another animal trying to get another animal. Like you're just like being human, being like part of the nature environment when you're hunting. And I think that like that's the goal. And I think getting people to that is just like really making it a welcoming space and like forgetting all the things that like create those barriers and obstacles for people. And so I think, yeah, just showing up genuinely is a big thing too. Like, you know, don't change yourself to like make people think that like you're one way or the other. Like, I think it's important that like, you know, if you guys showed up and everyone was in like, so no offense if this is what you wear all the time at weekends at like 9 p.m. But if everyone was like in collar t-shirts and like, or like collared with like ties, I'd be like, well, this is kind of strange for like a podcast. Like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it'd be kind of weird. Like, and so I feel like you got to be yourself. Like, I think, you know, similarly, like in whatever capacity that is for you, you just got to be yourself. I think people see that and they see themselves. Like this like put together image of like the hunter that's all hard and like going to go hike 500 miles and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes you want to do that and you do that and it's fun and good. But most times it's just like, yeah. And then like I got winded and I got on my tree because I'm like, no deer are coming right now. And I went and like went scouting or whatever. Or like went hung with my like boy who was like, oh, I shot a deer and I go help them. It's like, I think also just being real allows people to really see themselves in this community and see themselves operating as a hunter and as like a hunter conservationist, not just a hunter, but like allows people to access that and see like I can do that too. It doesn't have to be like the top echelon hunter. Like everyone wants to be the elite hunter, and it's like there's a reason they're the elite hunters. Like that's their job, and it's like there are a small number of them, and like most of us I think don't have to be, and also that's like not our job. And like I think we do a really important job like filling the role of really recruiting the next generation, which is much more like normal people who are like, I want to make this a core of my life that I want to pass on to my family and keep this thing around for beyond us.
Oh, definitely. You know, you said something that kind of stuck out to me. You said, no, like come as you are. Like, you know, if we were all on this podcast in college shirts, it'd be weird. I know when I got my brother introduced into archery and we were going to a TAC event, you know, he drove over to South Dakota and came to my house and everything. And, you know, I'm decked out in, you know, I got Masio, you know, bottomland paint.
I see that bottomlands with your little the pinhole pinhole.
I'm dressed like, you know, the typical guy that you would see a TAC event. And my brother come and he got on, you know, some pants he got from some Magellan pants he got from Academy, but he, you know, got on his, you know, like a regular, you know, streetwear shirt. He got his chains on. I'm like, hey man, you can't be wearing all that. He goes, why? Man, we going out here, you know, outdoors hunting. You know where all? He goes, bruh, this is me. If they can't to be there.
Hey, and I can see Dick saying that too.
Why you just so like you don't wear that? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but that's the kind of setting we in. He goes, no, man, look, you got to be you. You got to stand out. You got to be who you are, and people gonna like you. And so I just like literally changed my clothes and really unpacked my bag and like this is what I'm gonna wear. And like my brother he'll go out to TAC and he got on Dunks, Jordan, this is what I wear, bro. And I noticed that when we go to these events, bro, people gravitate to him. It's like, because he come as he is. He's like, this is me. And people love it. So I'm like, man, I gotta be me. I can't be a loser, I guess, because I don't wear that stuff. And so I just like switch up my style. But he was like, hey man, look, you gotta be you and come as you are. Like, you know, it's like, hey.
Man, I mean, I did the same thing, man, when I was in college, you know, because I found my crew, and I'm the only country one out of my crew. Everybody else is from, the inner city. So I'll be trying to dress like they dress, and in the wintertime, I'll be freezing my ass off. And so finally, I was like, "Hey, y'all, this is what I do," and they accepted me. So I went back to my Carhartts, all my country gear. Man, I was warm. Then I said, "Man, I can't be keeping up with y'all these Timbs and these Pele coats and Averex coats." I said, "I can't do this, dog. I'm freezing to death."
Hey, because it's not insulated.
That was not the right jacket to have on for some real cold, my boy.
At all, dog. Had to go back to the Carhartts, man. I was like, hey, y'all, I'm sorry. This is me.
That's awesome. No, man, I really do feel like that's like the key is that like people really do gravitate to that. I love that story. I feel like that is that's so real. And I go back to it all the time because like, I wear like a lot of like I have like a Stetson that like I like love wearing. It's like a basically like kind of like a cowboy-ish hat. But I used to not wear it in the city because I was like, oh no, it's too weird or whatever. But I'm like, no, man, this is me. I'm wearing that hat when I want on the subway. I don't care. Same with camo. I used to not wear camo in the city. Now I'm like, oh yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly. I got a couple of them too.
Exactly. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's at some point you kind of just got to be like, well, I'm gonna be what I'm gonna be, and you can take the boy out of the country, as they said, but take
the country out the boy. That's for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. I feel like you take that out and the boy dies. So
yeah, man. So look, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, probably about a week ago. He's real interested in hunting, African American male, just like the rest of us. But he's real scared to get into it because of like some of the backlash and how he thinks he might get treated if he, is hunting public land and gets into it with somebody. Like, what would you say to somebody like that getting into it for the first time like that?
I'd say, like, honestly, they are the right thing already reaching out to someone who hunted. Like, I feel like a lot of people like who are like concerned or trying to figure that out, like doing it alone is not the way to do it, like ever. But I feel like he already did the right choice reaching out to someone like you, Courtney, like who could like reach out and put him on the right way. But I feel like one of the big things is that you should never let, and I think that's one of the things I'm actually most thankful for my family, like, and all my mentors who taught me how to hunt, because I realized that I never really felt like that concerned about doing anything on public or doing all these, like, I'm gonna go and like fish in the middle of like the largest park in America and be like, I'm catching fish in the middle of downtown or whatever. I'm like, whatever, it's legal. Or like go hunting in like places that are like right in the middle of like the Hamptons or whatever. And it's like, hey, it's legal. I'm like, I'm not afraid of any of that because I think I had such great role models, like my family, who I think really like empowered me to be like, this is your right too. Like, you get to do this. You get to go outdoors. You get to hunt. You get to fish. You have the same access and the same ability to recreate in that way and connect with the land in that way. And I feel like that really stuck with me as a kid. And I think for a lot of people, they never maybe had that, like, that source of support that really allowed them to kind of come into that confidence to be like, yeah, like, this is for me. I can do this. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, I think a lot of people are worried that like, there's like maybe some element where like those people who might be like on them or something are right. And I'm like, they're not right. Like, it's like, they're as wrong as they could be. But I think that like the culture, if you don't have a mentor or like friends or a community to like tell you like, look, man, like you, like everyone else, like anyone else, like have the same right to be out here and should not feel any sort of way and shouldn't feel threatened or any sort of like concern about being out here. Because this is also like here for you in the same exact way it is for them. And I feel like without that, it's very difficult. And I think that obstacle mentally for people is a big one. And so I feel like one of the big things I tell the people all the time is like, that's why it's so important to have a community, to really like go together, be with someone you trust, like be with someone who can kind of build that like sort of experience and that confidence with. Cause I feel like, it takes time. Like, again, I think it takes a lot of time. Like I look back and I flash forward through all of my childhood when I was hunting with my family. But I mean, they really like just kind of would drop me off in the woods and be like, go. And I'd be like, all right, awesome. Like, and like without that like instilled confidence and just like comfort with the woods, like I don't know if it would have been impossible to do it. Like I think I'm always so impressed with all the new adult onset hunters who like have no exposure hunting, who are then like, I'm gonna show up in the woods in some random place 3 hours from the city with no phone service with like 20 random dudes, and these are like men, women, trans folks, queer people, like who show up to just learn how to hunt. And I'm like, this is crazy. That like, like I would never do that if that was me before I hunted. I'd be like, hell no, I seen this movie. Like,
right.
I'm like, hey, are you gonna come to that spot? I'm like, no. I'm like, and so that's the thing, is that's why I'm like, man, I'm really always blown away by the trust and confidence and courage really of all the mentees, because it takes so much to get into it. And so I feel like, you know, your friend has all of the right instincts to feel concerned, because there are some things that are concerning in some situations, but I feel like he's doing the right thing by reaching out to a great person who's going to be able to like help connect him with a community and take him out, make him feel like he's safe. And also like that process is a long process. So it's like, he's not just going to go from zero to like out on his own in the middle of the backcountry, like fighting off like bears and all the other bears are not even the worst part. Like people are the worst part sometimes. And so I feel like, you know, that process is long, but I feel like with community and with like the right support system to really kind of build his confidence up, like he should not let that be a barrier for him, because he's already started by like starting with community. Like he's going to be able to come through that, because everyone will have that challenge. Like I know my uncles and my grandparents and all of them have had their challenges that they faced, that I faced, and I think that they prepared me to face that I didn't even know, and like that they're preparing me for, you know. And same with you guys. Like I'm sure the same thing has happened, but like by the time that it happens, you're so like set in your ways by being like, no, this is for me. Like I'm already in this. Like it's too late.
Yeah.
And like I think without having that, like that, if someone who's not yet there, like I think just like being able to like help support them through that by like letting them know that that should not be a reason for them to like not get into this. They should just even actually think of it even more so a reason, like getting in it with people they trust and they connect with, like community like yourself. And so I feel like, you know, it's just part of the process, and hopefully that changes, right? Like at some point in time in like 20, 40 years, hopefully they just like, okay, I want to go hunt. I can join any Rhonda Gun Club and be welcome to be hunting.
Right.
That would be ideal.
It'll be amazing to see it change. And also, Courtney, I tell your friend too, like I hunt a lot of public land. Every single person I'm running to in the actual real life face to face has pretty much been cool, man. You're a hunter. Like that's all they really care about. The only people that really seem to get a little encouraged and like to talk are the keyboard warriors. Like a lot of people talking on the keyboard, saying things they would never say to your face. So just keep that in mind too. And maybe I take that for granted, being 6'4", 250 something pounds. But I mean, like a lot of people just don't really give me a hard time. Like we were all up in Oklahoma together, us three, and we had a great time up there. It was cool, no issues for the most part. Everybody was friendly. We had a great time at that event. And then, like, I mean, you just gotta tell them, like, you just gotta get out there and do it. Find a buddy and go. Like, don't go by yourself.
We had a long conversation, and we've been having conversations. Like he's just, you know, he's in South Georgia, you know, and he's just scared like he's gonna go out there and like the Klan's gonna get him or something, you know, like like I was like, hey man,
I was waiting for it. He give us one every week. There you go.
Like for real, like that's I give y'all one every
for
week.
real. That's what makes it funny. You dead serious.
There's my one for y'all tonight. But yeah, like I'm like, bro, it ain't like it. I said most time, 95% of the time, like you just said, Jay, you're a hunter. You know, they're gonna be like, all right, cool. You know, I'm hunting here. You know, ain't no static. Now I have been in some situations before, and I'm sure all of us have. But you know, that's here nor there. Like you said, a lot of times it's them keyboard warriors. A lot of times, but you can't let that. You know, you can't let that mess with you about getting out there. Like Brandon said, it's for everybody. You got just as much right to be out there as anybody. So
I mean, I definitely understand where he coming from though, because like every time I used to say like when I was rocking with BHA kind of tough, like I would say I was gonna go to that rendezvous that they have, like nah. And then that one incident happened, and I definitely ain't. I was like, nah. If this was in Louisiana, like New Orleans, I would go, but ain't no way I'm going out there to Missoula. Nope, I'm cool. I'm not going. Sorry, not going. Like they need to move that thing to like a more neutral location, and then maybe I'll reconsider.
Man, I done been in some sketchy places, and I just hit him with the Irish goodbye. I'm there, and this
Yeah.
I'm in the car. Did you leave? Yeah, yeah, man. Something came up.
Like, ew.
Something came up.
I'm like Homer Simpson. I just fly back in the bushes, man. Like,
Oh, dude. I've avoided some of these things. I'm like, how many people at trailheads? And sometimes it's hard to tell because some people are real cool at trailheads or whatever, and they're like, "You got to come home with my crew, blah 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 blah. It'll be great. Come to my camp house on the end of this road, blah blah blah." And I'm like, I've seen this movie. I've seen this. I've seen this. It's not happening. Be like, how about we meet on public? It's like, oh no. I only hunt here because I'm just the camp's being used or blah blah. I was like, no.
I'm with you. So you catch me at the bar, catch me somewhere across from the police station or something, somewhere safe.
Somewhere with a whole lot of lights.
Yeah, for sure. You ain't gonna get me, buddy.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you didn't come this far, just come this far. Yeah.
Oh man.
So, like that, like cats be inviting you places, you be like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, red flags. That's become actually a little orange flags for me. Like usually, because I don't know, I'm a very trusting person, and like to a fault, I'd say. But like, thankfully, I feel like over the course of time, like between my friends and my girlfriend, they've all been like, "You need to stop all this." I'm like, "You're gonna get killed." I was like, "All right, you're right." I'm chill. But
we laughing, but like serious though at the same time.
Yeah.
You got to be careful a little bit, but
yeah, and it's
trust
like,
your gut, use your instincts, and be smart, and everything normally works out for the best. But before we get out of here tonight, we was talking about hunters and colors and all of that. Like, how would somebody get involved in that right now? Like, what should they do if, say, like somebody wanted to become a mentee or a mentor? Because I think they have a chapter here in Texas. I know they got one in Kentucky.
Yeah.
So how would we go about getting involved with that if somebody was interested in doing so?
Yeah, so the best sort of like quickest way to do it would basically look up like your state. So I know we definitely have we have Kentucky. That's Kenton Bottoms.
That's Kenton. That's my boy.
Yeah. Oh, Courtney. Yeah. They do the dove hunt out there too, right?
Yeah, we had. So that's what I was going to talk to you about too. I meant to hit on this earlier, but like, I think me and Jay was having this conversation, I think yesterday, but we had like the pre-warm ups of dove hunting last year, and like nobody showed up, and we was just like wondering, we've been at, me and Kenton's just been scratching our heads trying to figure out just how to get people there, and it's just we can't, come up with nothing because New York, y'all said y'all had a bunch of people coming, and like Pennsylvania or wherever, and Kenton's just like, man, I just can't get nobody to come to Kentucky. Like they just won't do it.
Whereas like I think one of the things too is proximity, because I mean it's real. I feel like I think what it is, it's usually like if the message isn't finding the people you're trying to get to, then it's like there's nothing you can do that'll make people come. And so I feel like the thing we try to prioritize is making events that are like basically either close-ish, like within 2 to 3 hours from like a major city, because that's a lot of people, right? If you're doing one of them like the sort of like on the outskirts where it's already an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of a major city, that's pretty doable. And then you advertise in that city, like not just local, like outside, like sort of like rural places around it, but like in that city you advertise, because those are the people who are really going to be like, oh yeah, 2 hours to learn how to shoot a gun. Like I'll drive to do that. So I feel like state agencies too can sometimes be helpful, because sometimes the state agencies have no idea like who the new hunters are, and they don't have any access to people of color in the outdoors because they're not even on those listservs. But I feel like partnering up or just messaging other local groups in cities, like they have like for example, like in New York, I know that they have like the Latino hikers group, or like black like backpackers or whatever. So like groups like that are like sort of like in a major city, like near you, or even like not major, just any sort of like city area or colleges. That's another big one, is going to colleges and messaging to colleges, because that's a good demographic. It's like they're like adults, they can drive, they're going to have jobs soon, they can buy money, and they can buy and decide what they want to do with their lives. Hunting.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like a college group. But yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you guys more about that. I feel like that's like, trying to figure out how you're advertising, like where you're advertising is the big thing. Because especially when you put all that work into an event, like you want people to show up.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. So wherever state you're in, you just type in your state, HOC, Hunters of Color, and you should be able to basically get up the ambassador for that state. Or if, like, let's say you're in a state that's like adjacent to other states, I would just message whatever state is closest to you. So we have a place in Texas, that's Bashir and Jam, and then we've also got Colorado, which is we've got 3 in Colorado. That's Bianca, Nelson, and oh my gosh, hold on, I'm blank, and Menciege, and then we got Washington, Oregon, Pennsylvania, New York, and Massachusetts, and Minnesota. Did I miss one? I think I might be missing one.
Where's Where's Ivan at? Where's Ivan at? Yeah.
Who?
Ivan Thomas. Ivan Thomas, you know him?
Oh yeah, Ivan, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Yeah,
Oklahoma.
yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I know Ivan. Yeah, absolutely, I know Ivan. He's my boy. Yeah. Oklahoma. That's 13. Yeah. So I feel like basically you message whatever state like ambassador you have, and then just message them, or message the national HOC, like huntersofcolor.org email, and like they should be able to connect you with whatever state you're in locally. But yeah, in every state it's sort of run differently. It depends on how the ambassador runs the state. But independently, I feel like honestly any of these groups like together that are coming, like I think we collaborate HOC at large with like backcountry hunters and anglers on a lot of this. And so like they usually have mentor programs or something like that too. So just like type in your state and like HOC, BHA, etc. And you should be able to get like some contact to get in with those mentorship programs. But yeah, if anyone's in the New York area, New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, like Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, I like hunt and traverse all those, and we got people all over this area. So, and I'm waiting on you guys to hit me up. Let me know when you're coming up. Got a lot of bow hunting, and if you want to get mentors.
Hey, and he a big duck hunter too, Courtney. So you might want to take him.
I'm taking you up on that. We definitely gonna have to go shoot some ducks.
I will travel for a bird. I'm actually doing a turkey. I'm doing a turkey tour, I think, next spring. It's before my graduation from med school. So
yeah, we talked about lining something up for that too. So
yeah, I'm gonna be down all over. Wait, Trey, where are you at?
I'm in Texas.
Oh, nice. Where?
Like northeast Texas, like by Texarkana.
Nice, cool. I used to, my uncle and I used to go and hunt in like Liberty, Texas, like kind of like Beaumont area. We had a camp out there, like whenever I was a kid growing up, and then I have family in Houston and Austin too.
Okay. Yeah, I'm back in Dallas now.
Nice.
But I'll move around anywhere in the state, so or anywhere, it don't matter. But speaking of, you also do some guiding. But real quick before we get out of here, if anybody's interested in doing some fly fishing, you got Carp in the Park is still going strong. Is that right?
Still going strong. I just officially, I'm going full time for the next like 2 months basically. So it's full time season, which is great. I got a trip, basically every day this week, sometimes 2.
And that's all fly fishing right there in Central Park, right?
All fly fishing in the Central Park area. Basically for honestly large. Like I think the smallest fish we caught today was probably 9 pounds. And it was like I think a 24-ish inch like carp. And it's all like, I mean, depending on the time of the year, it's mostly surface, which is really nice to see like a big fish come up and eat something on the top. And yeah, man, it's a blast. It's like, it's challenging, it's rewarding, it's frustrating, and it's so cool when you get that fish pick and you're like New York City skyline, like you're in the middle of Manhattan. It's a lot of fun though. It's been
Do you eat them?
No, it's all catch and release. Yes. It's legally, it's all catch and release. It would be gross too, only because like there's like I've seen city bikes in there with like lead like batteries in them, and then also like like grocery carts, and like there have definitely been reports of like bodies and stuff at some point in time, like in certain parts of the park. So it's not the water
eating it out of there.
Yeah. So I wouldn't want to eat anything, but it's fun to catch and release there.
Man, so where can they find that at? You got a website at? How can they get in contact with you?
Yeah.
Tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you can just type in NYC Carp in the Park.
New York City Card in the Park. And all your socials, shout them out. How can people get a hold of you? They got any questions? People in the New York area.
Yeah, so you can hit me up on Instagram at bdale13, and that links to also my carp fishing website, as well as my hunting and all the mentorship programs as well. And yeah, honestly, I'll be releasing a book. I think we're trying to publish probably in the fall 2026. I think is going to be Hunting: A New Conversation, basically about a discussion on how to get new hunters into the outdoors, and sort of a highlight of a couple of the different mentored hunts and species that we've covered. From white-tailed deer to ducks and then the wild turkey. So yeah, join me on there. Follow me. It's a lot of fun. Reach out. It's love to meet with people all the time and hopefully get out into the woods.
So when it comes to the book, real quick, are you releasing that print only, or what's the plan there?
Yeah. So it'll be print and electronic as well. And I think my publisher was saying that basically they're gonna think about maybe an audiobook as well. So I feel like right now the plan is early 2026, and so I'm in the copy editing stages. This is with Timber Press, and so it's gonna be press, print, and then also ebook, and then we're debating on whether or not we're gonna do an audiobook.
Please do. Let us know when that's available. I'll definitely check that out.
Hey, will do, guys. Thank you. And actually, we'd love to come to your towns and do a little book tour and do some hunting together.
Let's do it.
Come on,
let's do it.
That sounds like an idea. That's something we can get together. We can set up.
I'm down. In the fall,
more of us the merrier, man.
I'm actually going to be in Texas. I have a conference in Austin in October, so I'm gonna rent a car. But we found a place in the middle. Have some early season duck hunting. Come on,
man.
That sounds good. I will definitely work on that.
I'll bring my boat. It's fine. We can do some. I would do some pigs too. I haven't pig hunted in years since being in Louisiana.
I know a place. I know a place that's not too far from Austin. So we might just be able to do that.
Yeah, I need to go pig hunting. I need to kill. Yeah, I definitely need to go pig hunting. Yeah, we got.
I told y'all about this already, about the place. It's the same place I just told y'all about recently. So, it's pretty affordable too. I'll get with you about that offline, Brandon. Anybody got any questions for Brandon before we get out of here?
I pretty much think we done picked his brain. I can stay on here for another probably 3 hours picking his brain, but
I know he get tired of me doing it. I know
it man's in med school, man. He got to get some rest.
You need to write a how-to on time management, because I don't know how I tell him this all the time, how he balances everything that he does.
No, man,
he must run off of caffeine or something.
I just swing from one thing to the other. I feel like I just focus on one, move on to the next, drop everything else. That's why I'm terrible at text. So if I owe you a text, I'm sorry. I will respond in some time.
It might be a month or two later, but he will get back to you.
I know what I meant to tell everybody. So your uncle told me to make sure everybody knows that's listening to this that he taught you everything that you know. He said, sure, to let everybody know that. So
yeah.
Oh man.
OG Dale, if you still in the chat, I told him.
You told him.
I told you.
That's hilarious.
Hey, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us, man. It was a really, really, really dope conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoyed it. Thank you for having us, man. That's going to do it for this edition of New Jack. It's episode 13. If you missed it, tell your friends, share it. We'll have it up on YouTube. Thanks so much, Brandon. Talk to you about everything that's offline, man.
Thank you.
Boy, Mr. J. Cam. That's Trey, Will, and Brandon Dale. We out of here, y'all.
Have a good one, y'all.
Peace.